Welcome, everyone, to Heroes of Gaming, the podcast channel that talks with the people who make the games we love. Continuing part 2 of our 2-part series on the video game pioneer who co-created Mortal Kombat and a master of martial arts, Master Daniel Pesina.
Round 2, fight!
Scorpion versus Sub-Zero. This rivalry that takes place between these two. Is this something that you wanted to continually build throughout, or did that just become part of the fandom that people played these two characters often?
The funny story is that sometimes I would come back in, from working the next day, and I would see John in the same clothes. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, I looked at John, I'm like, you all right? Oh yeah, I had to stay here late. I spent the whole night here. He goes, but I got some sleep. There's a couch. I got some sleep. And I was like, what happened? And he goes, I'm the only artist, and I have Vogel as a background artist, but there's 5 programmers. So they think it's funny. All 5 of them drop all their work at the same time.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, you want me to talk to him? And John starts laughing.
Want me to talk to him?
Sub-Zero?
Yeah. I'm going to go talk to him, that's my friend, don't mess with my friends. I can mess with John. My brother messes with me. I mess with Rich. Rich messes with my brother. We all can mess with each other, but an outsider cannot mess with one of the friends. And that's what for that basic group of 12 people, that was always our thing. It's like we would tease each other, but if an outsider started teasing, we would gang up on him. So anyway, we were filming Raiden, and then John had just had one of those nights where he just spent the whole night. And then that's when John breaks the news. He's like, hey, he goes, I'm going to have to palette swap one of the characters. We're going to have to leave out one of the characters that I want to do, and we're going to switch it up to save time. So we're going to palette swap this guy. I'm not sure of what it is or how the story is going to be or anything like that. This is kind of at the last minute. We need to do that. So we'll figure it out. And Carlos looks at John, and Carlos is like, why are you being so lazy? Even though we were just giving him crap because he was dressed in the same clothes. And then he's like, dude, you don't even go home and take a shower. And we know that he spent the night for working. We just tease him a little bit. And then he looks at Carlos and he's like, you know what? These guys are brothers and they're arch rivals. And one brother's going to kill the other brother. And that's going to be the storyline. And we started, I was just like, whoa. But that is basically when I see that arch rivalry is the storyline. And that's why when we were creating game, they were brothers. One was more powerful. Sub-Zero was more powerful than Scorpion, but Scorpion wanted to take over the clan. And so Scorpion kills the father, and then Sub-Zero kills Scorpion, and then Scorpion comes back. Wow. Makes it kill the devil and comes back. So that was and John came up with that like boom. Really on the spot. Like I was just like, holy cow, that's going to be awesome.
That's going to be awesome. And it was awesome. I mean,
you're saying that he changed the color palette. Does that mean there are additional characters that you guys costumed and fighted that we have never seen?
Well, I don't know about costume and fighted, but we had another character. I forget what character was. Originally we wanted Stryker to be in it.
The cop eventually came out.
As well as all the characters, which we never got. Originally, that I was going to be Stryker. I was like, I don't want to be Stryker. Nothing against Stryker as personally, but I just thought, this is a martial art tournament. You have to be heavily trained to come into this tournament. You can't be just studying a martial art 8 or 9 years or even 6 months and walk into this tournament and fight these guys who've been training their whole lives. That in reality, that's not a possibility. So I didn't want to be Stryker because of that, because there's no way he's going to go to, even if he was military, you join the military when you're 17, 18, when you're sold to a warlord at 2, your training starts at 2, you're missing 14 years of combat that you can't make up for, hand-to-hand combat with these killers. So I would have never thought that, like, even today, I find it odd that non-martial artists are in a martial art fighting game. They can make, and I love the characters, they can make their own games. I would buy those games. If you made an Alien versus character game, I'd buy that. If you made just all these other characters, I would buy all those games. They should have their own game. Martial arts should be in Mortal Kombat. That's how it started. But anyway,
Agreed.
yeah. So anyway, that palette swap, when we were doing it, I made enough. John was just like, if we have time, you should do more characters. So I actually made enough movement for like 4 or 5 different ninjas. And later on, I think that's why that having, with the idea of Carlson Rich wanted the secret characters, and then I shot enough footage for like at least four Lin Kuei characters. I think Ed took that and be like, oh, well, let's have a secret Lin Kuei character, and it's a collaboration. It was definitely a collaboration of how you see that escalating into something.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, the rivalry is so well known now. It's like Batman and Joker, it's like these are iconic rivals.
Yeah, they could be friends, but they're enemies.
So
Batman and
powerful.
Joker could be friends. They're both flipping crazy.
Yeah.
One's crazy to one side and one's crazy to the other side.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Each other kind of,
Yeah. Yeah. If we could just step away from Mortal Kombat for a second, and could you tell us a little bit about Tattoo Assassins? What was that experience like after Mortal Kombat?
Ho Sung wanted to get into the video game business.
Mm-hmm.
His father was in real estate and got a group of investors together to invest in Ho Sung doing video games. So Ho Sung approached me. He's like, hey, I want to do a bunch of video games. And because we're such good friends, I didn't even ask him what or anything like that. I was like, okay, what do you need? And so he was like, oh, dress like this, or let's have like this. So I would be showing up to a small studio and doing movement, and I didn't even know what game it was going to be for. It was just like, oh, we're going to this. Recently, I saw like all these, I seen not only Tattoo Assassin, the Thea Realm Fighter, and I seen another one. I forget what it's called, but there's another game, and I'm like, oh yeah, I completely forgot. I remember doing that movement for that game, but I didn't know that it was going to be for that particular, because he was just trying to create this like all at once to get everything out there.
Right.
These games out there to kind of, there was, Ho Sung has a theory, hit the iron when it's hot. That's his mouth.
Yeah.
So he was like, everybody's crazy about, us doing this video game. We got to make another one, and let's make 3. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so he would just like, boom, let's do this. I was like, okay, let's go. Let's try to film for this. So.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
We are a video game podcast, Master Pesina, but your extensive martial art experience is so fascinating, and it does pertain to video games because all these games that you've contributed to, you've used martial arts that you've learned from closed-door training. I was curious if you could maybe tell us a little bit more about what that means.
Closed-door martial arts, or indoor, they call it indoor student, a student they open the door basically to their family, because it's really about family. Even in today's military, the soldier next to you is family. He's right next to you.
Brother in arms.
Yeah, exactly. You're fighting for each other, for your survival. So with that in mind, in Chinese martial arts, it's old-fashioned army. You have to have a lot of guys, and you got to train a lot of guys. Mm-hmm. And if you ever studied anything, that everyone learns at a different rate. And everybody has a different gift for different things. So in the Chinese system, when you're learning, they teach you, and those who excel at learning and paying attention get taught more. And it's not that the instructor doesn't like the other guy or take the time out, but they realize if I spend one guy catching up, I can make 3 of the other guys way better. And in a battle, those 3 guys could be really the ones that make the battle pivotal, that really turn the battle. And the other guy is more of like a pawn. But you still love that guy because you still need soldiers of that rank.
Right.
So a lot of times in Chinese martial arts, a lot of the people, they can even go on to become instructors, but they don't really know all the inner training or inner method. Like in Chinese martial arts, every single move, even the opening, when you see the bow like this, when you see the sun and moon bow, which one hand is open and one hand's in the fist, and you put them together, that has a martial art application. So any single movement has a martial art application, but it's whether you're aware of it or not. So the indoor student knows every theory behind a movement because in Chinese martial arts or traditional martial arts, it's said 10 ways to use one technique, your martial arts are no good. If you have 100 ways to use one technique, your martial arts are okay. 1,000 methods to use one technique, then your martial art is good. I recall like one time I was doing a demo. A Chinese master came to visit my master, who's also Chinese. And then he's like, oh, he's looking around. He's like, hey, he goes, how's your Caucasian students? And then he's like, Daniel, do something for this guy. And then the guy, so I was like, okay. And so I did something for the guy, and the guy was like, whoa, he's in English. He said, this guy's really good. And my master looked at him and said, don't tell him that. He'll stop practicing. So the training never starts and expectations never start because you're always striving to learn more about the martial arts. Not that it should be all about killing or combat, but in the end, it's really about, yourself and you striving and overcoming these obstacles and becoming, you're growing as a person. I noticed posts that like there's one post that I always kind of chuckle at. I see like, Master, you always talk about peace, but why do you teach me how to fight? And then the master says it's better to be a warrior than a farmer, or something crazy like that. And I start laughing because I'm like, no martial art teacher who has ever fought has ever said that. A really quick story. I'm sorry.
No, please.
But one time I'm in China training, like we're with this famous Bagua Zhang master, Zhu Ba Jim. He was the Communist Party hunted him during the Communist Revolution because he was famous.
Goodness.
Yeah, because he was famous, and they were like, "Oh, if we break this guy, we can say, you know what I mean? It's a badge of honor to break a martial art guy because these guys are tough. These guys are really, really tough."
Yeah.
So anyway, one time they almost had him, like two guys with a gun. One had a pistol, one had a rifle, and one was the guy who had the list. We had the picture of him on a piece of paper. And he's like, and he goes, and I saw them turn the corner and they yelled my name and I was like, oh, I'm dead. And he goes, but then they started approaching me and I was like, oh, they want to capture me. They're going to be dead. So he said when the guy approached with the rifle too close, he's like, I kind of bumped the rifle on the way and I punched the guy in the throat and I heard his neck snap.
Fatality.
So I automatically, from that sound, I knew he didn't need any more of my attention. And so the guy with the pistol had it holstered. So when he went to reach for the pistol, he goes, I did a forearm blow to the side of his neck.
Finish him.
And I knew that it snapped too. And then he goes, and so I turned to the guy who was like the leader of the guy who had the picture, and he ran. And so this guy was like, so later on, we would have a beer after class to just talk about martial art philosophy. And one time he was kind of just sitting there and I could see him kind of not with us. And I was like, Master, are you all right? And he's like, don't ever use the martial arts to hurt people, to kill people. And I was kind of like being a smartass at the time. I was just like, because I already knew this story about him, that he killed other people, whether it was for being persecuted or whether it was to show he was the best, he's already taken lives. I was like, Master, you've killed people. He goes, yes. He goes, but right now, when you ask me how I was, I saw the faces of all the people I killed in front of me.
Wow.
And they're haunting me. He goes, I don't want you to ever be haunted like this. Don't use the martial arts for fighting. Wow. So that's a way different theme than use it for peace. He wanted me not to be haunted like he is and hurt people. When you get older and you realize like, oh, I'm older. I wonder if there's a heaven or hell. I took lives. I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
So hearing that again is all the part of the indoor training. He taught me, like, even though I would never use, I'm not in this situation to use it to take lives. He taught me like one day I was going to have to take a life.
Wow.
Yeah. So the philosophy when you're training like that's a lot different than going to a dojo 2 or 3 times a week. An hour or two a day. We were practicing 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours at night, 7 days a week. even now I train not as intently, but I train like that. Like I have a 40-pound bag with steel pellets in it.
Oh my God.
And every day I make sure I hit it at least 500 times.
Whoa.
How are your hands?
I bet they're like stone.
Yeah, well, because it's Chinese martial arts, you use Dit Dao Jiao, hit, bruise, water, liniment. So you put this on so you don't get arthritis.
Right. Boxers have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so you don't get arthritis, and you put this liquid on that helps increase the circulation in your hands or wherever you put it on. It's good for bruises too. So you put this on, and then you hit stuff or palm stuff, and you kick stuff, and so your hands don't really get messed up, though they're a little bit of rough. But yeah, for the guys out there who can't see my knuckles, when I make a fist, a lot of people are like, "Holy cow, your hands look huge."
Yeah.
But too, even casually hitting this, when I practice with my students and I lightly tap them, they're like, "Holy cow." But again, this takes a long process. Like if you do this type of training, you can't expect in 1 year to have like this type of result. If you do this type of training 5-6 years later, you're going to be able to do damage. So
Wow. That
yeah,
is so fascinating.
yeah, but that's the geeky side of me. I think that's the side of me to explore that, to be like, well, what is this? What is that? How do you, oh, there's that. It's kind of like a nerdy, dangerous side, I guess. With that stuff, there's like a whole science really behind it. There's a geeky science, and I've been working on my book. Like I started this book, working on this book to combine like the stories of Mortal Kombat and stories like of martial arts mysticism. Like a lot of people are like, well, how do you break somebody? Like we said, the elbow's so hard. How do you break it? Well, I'm gonna give you the information about how you do that, or how people do iron palm, or how do people say steal energy. There's actually a system for stealing energy out of a person. Yeah, if you spend 10 years trying to do this, you could probably get some result because there is a science behind it. There's weird things like that I wanted to include into the book to make it kind of geeky that way and geeky Mortal Kombat way.
Is that book, I mean, you said you're working on it, but is that something that we can expect soon or published or what's the timeline on that?
That's a good question, because I started the book and I told Philip on Shang Tsung, hey, I'm writing a book on this. And then Philip was like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll write a book. So he came out with a book. And Tony already came out with a book. But I keep on looking at it and changing it. I'm like, well, that's kind of right what I'm saying, but that's not maybe what I want to say. So I think I changed it too much. But hopefully within this, by the end of this next year, I will have this book out, and telling the untold tales of Mortal Kombat and this geeky martial art thing, that martial arts or even meditation is properly done. People are like, oh, I have a hard time meditating. Well, yeah, that's why when you learn meditation, the master has you standing and walks behind you with a stick to teach you to stand still, to quiet yourself for a while before he even teaches you how to breathe or anything like that. And the stick is when he sees you relaxing or you're moving and you can tell you're thinking, he hits you with the stick, not hard, but hard enough to bring you present back. Oh, I should be trying to focus on calming myself.
Does the book have a title?
Right now, it is Fist of Heaven.
Great. Fist of Heaven. Great title. Great title. Oh, very exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of like the spiritual side, not religious, like a spiritual side, because a lot of these things come from inner reflection, because a lot of this is training by yourself. You train with the master, but basically you're training by yourself. So you should be kind to each other because you're letting you use each other's body to explore like the martial arts. So you should be nice. You get people that you like to practice. Nobody wants to practice with a jerk.
Right. And Steven Seagal. But these aren't enemies. These are brothers. Right. Family. So that's another layer. Yeah,
just like Liu Kang or Kung Lao, they're my brothers. They're, if they ever showed up in my parents' door, my parents would welcome in like a lost kid. Thanks to Tobias, we got to help collaborate and co-create Mortal Kombat.
So wonderful. That's so wonderful. Master Pesina, we only have time for one more question.
Would you feel it's important for a proper VR game to actually make you feel like your rib or your elbows is snapped so that you have the adrenaline building up to not let that happen?
I don't think that there should be any, in my opinion, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that because it's damaging.
Yeah, you've experienced this.
Yeah, it'll damage you emotionally and spiritual. When you're doing, you're sure you have adrenaline when you're fighting. Fortunately enough, I never really, was in a war or anything like that, but I did fight in the ring. It's different. I don't think.
No, I see that.
With practicing the martial arts, I've learned that one of the mottos I use is everything's possible to a willing mind. And when you think that you cannot take more, you can take more. But you go through the martial arts gradually to that point. It's not like you put on a VR thing and all of a sudden, boom, you can do it. And I think that's the trauma that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Martial arts, I got choked out before. I've done judo. I've got choked out before. I've got the wind knocked out of me a bunch of times. I've got kicked in the nuts a bunch of times. And the first time, it's always shocking. Each time that's happened, I've had a buildup of conditioning of my body and my mind to do that. With VR, you're just jumping into it without any prerequisite. And that can really crack you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, mentally, absolutely. Master Pesina, in your opinion, what is the best martial art?
The best martial art is just practice and experience. Like I'm as a martial art geek, I've practiced a lot of different styles, and I've earned the title by a master by another master, not only one, but several, saying, oh, you have a mind-body connection. Your technique is running as efficiently as it can right at this moment. But really, it's about your journey and what you pick. Because traditional martial arts teaches you thousands of techniques. Everyone is unique. Everybody is already unique. You got to just do the journey and figure out what is your techniques. Find an instructor that you can click with and learn from him. And when that path is done, you've learned from somebody else.
Ni shuo putan hua?
Ni shuo put, yeah.
All right.
All right. And so do you speak Mandarin or Cantonese?
A little bit. Mostly the martial art terms. That's how I got away with it. Too, when I tried to learn Chinese when I was practicing, my master was like, you can't even do the technique. Why do you want to learn the words? Focus on the technique. You can't do he goes, there's two types of people. Those who know who can say the technique, and there's those who can do the technique. He's like, which one do you want to do? And I knew which one had to be.
Right.
With the stick.
Before you go, Master Pesina, is there anything that you want to promote or talk about?
I'm on Facebook, Master Pesina. Instagram, Master D Pesina. I'm on Cameo, Daniel Pesina. I'm doing a Twitch. If you're interested in learning martial arts or even getting a view of martial arts, right now we just started. I'm taking the lightsaber and applying formal swordsmanship to the lightsaber and showing other techniques that if you were actually using and with a real lightsaber, you probably wouldn't want to do, even though they look cool in a movie.
Right.
Right. Which is like danger. It's cool. You should do that movie stuff because that's awesome. But two, it's good to know, like, oh, if I was in a real fight, I wouldn't do this technique because it would be my death.
Right. Chop my own head off or something.
Twitch channel, Master Pesina. And just, more importantly, after all the thing is just, for everyone out there, we're all gamers, we're all geeks. Take care of each other. I know that right now, especially in the U.S., the country is very, very divided, and we should remember that, we are still all together. My parents are old. Wear a mask. Wear a mask for my parents. I want them around. I don't want to say bye to them sooner than they have to go. Luck of the draw. So that, whether you believe in masks or not, don't be a jerk and just wear one. And when this is all over, you could be the one where, like, I told you so. So, but right now, let's just get through this thing together and just be friends. The strong always protect, whether you're strong-minded, strong-willed, or strong in body. You could not be in the greatest shape, but you could have a strong mind and you could still protect. And we should protect each other.
Beautiful. That's beautifully said. And Master Pesina, you have a mind-body connection, but you certainly made a heart connection over on this side. So we really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate all the wonderful things that you said, all the wonderful history you shared with us. We hope to actually stop by not only this Chinese restaurant, but we'll stop by your place at some time and say hello.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. We'll
Yeah,
be getting an autograph on that book at
We
some point.
need an
too.
autograph for sure.
Yeah. And again, really quick, martial art master Daniel Pesina, you know me as Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, Smoke, Noob Saibot. You're tuning in to Heroes of Gaming podcast. So get over here.
Thank you so much, Master Pesina. 1,000 thank yous. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Ciao. Take it easy, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.